Welcome to the AI Edge for Enterprise Leaders. This is the show where we go beyond the buzzwords to have real conversations with leaders at the forefront of their industry about what's working, what's changing, and how AI is being used to drive results. I'm your host, Jakaya, CEO of Achieve and Believe Consulting, where we provide AI solutions to help improve your business outcomes. Today, we're diving into practical insights, real challenges, and honest perspectives on how AI is being used to shape the future of your business and industry. Joining us today, we have Khalil, CEO of Kornerz, an up-and-coming social platform. So we'll go ahead and start with our first question. Can you tell us a little bit about your role, industry, company, and how AI is currently showing up for you, if at all?
So first of all, I say that I'm entrepreneur since I can remember and working on social media and marketing industry for the past 15 years. Right now, we're developing a new kind of social network, and I believe AI, will do such a great job, moderating, helping us with the heavy lifting, and the engagement with social networks.
Can you tell us a little bit about your company, how long it's been around, possibly, and how you really even came up with the idea?
Yes, of course. So the long story short, Kornerz was born around 10 years ago in Brazil in a startup competition. So this competition was a 3 months, long competition, and at the end of those 3 months, this venture capital firm would select two startups to kind of, invest and accelerate them. And we were one of them. So that was very fortunate for us. And the business model that we had at the time was a matchmaking for companies and bloggers. Why bloggers? Because creator economy was even near what it is today. So, that's what we did. We were very successful. We started working with micro influencers, with big celebrities, doing campaigns for enterprise companies, Fortune 500 companies, so and so. And I always had the dream, and I felt the need for a new kind of social network. I felt the time was right. And we received more funding from venture capitals, from corporate ventures. So the business was growing. And I wasn't able to spin off the business, but the desire was there. Like, hey, I want to do a new kind of social network. I want to do a new kind of social network. And then came COVID. So whenever COVID came, a lot of our contracts, a lot of things were put it on hold. And I said, now's the time. It's now or never. So obviously when things started to come back, I said, we're gonna pivot. And everybody went, what? I said, yes, I believe the time is right, for all those reasons. And then we started developing this new kind of social network. We started doing Zoom calls once a week, inviting people from all over the globe to talk about philosophy, to talk about well-being, to talk about business, all those topics, bring in those people that were looking for meaningful conversations, for networking, and so and so. So that's how the new social network started. And here we are.
And would you say it's similar to Facebook? Like, is your target audience kind of anybody? Like, what would you say is your target audience, and what do they get out of like being on those social networks?
Amazing. Great question. So, whenever we talk to the users and we started doing the research and development, one thing caught our attention is right now the experience that we have on platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, they feel more like a billboard, you know, they are more like an advertisement platform than really is a social network. There's still a bit of social network, but the most part of the user experience, it's scrolling, so he's consuming a lot of content, and which is great. So we said, all right, what's missing? And a lot of people said, I want to have conversations. I want to actually network with people, And we started getting that cozy coffee shop vibe. We believe people need more of that, walking to the coffee shop, seeing all these different tables. And there's a table right there in the corner that they have in a book club. There is this other table right there that they're playing role games and so. So that's the kind of experience that we bring to Corners. It's more like a cozy coffee shop, is more community driven, less scrolling and more having conversations. So, for example, one of the key features that we have, it's called a Nook. So a Nook, it's literally an on-demand video chat conversation that it's happening 24/7. You can join in. It sends a push notification to other users, and other users can join, or you can also join an ongoing conversation. It's capped to 9 people. Why? Because whenever we're testing the product, obviously, I believe you and everyone that is listening to us had that experience before of joining like a video call with 50 people, it becomes a webinar.
Mm,
It stops being like a conversational environment because if everyone would speak for like a minute or so, you would spend like just an hour just going around. So we figured that out and we said, all right, so let's cap it. Let's limit it to 9. So obviously we did a bunch of tests, and we came up to the magic number 9. We said, all right, 9 is the right number where everyone has a chance to speak. Whenever we see large crowd environments, large events, a big dining table, they start breaking in smaller groups. Why? Because they want to have the opportunity to also speak. They also want to listen, but they also want to speak. So that's the kind of environment and that's the kind of experience that we're delivering, where people can literally join a video call and meet other people from around the globe to talk about philosophy, to talk about business, to talk about, you know, cool stuff.
nice. No, that sounds really cool. And so I'm curious, is it split up like by subject matter, I guess, would you say? Or like even hobbies. So like if I'm like, oh, I really love books, I want to talk to people about this book I'm reading.
Exactly. So we have what we call corners, right? So each corner is a community, and all these communities are tied to different topics. So there's the Wisdom and Wonder, for example, where we talk about subjects such as philosophy, spirituality, well-being, and so and so. The lounge is where we talk about books, about business, about entrepreneurship, about creative economy, about us, all these subjects. So the cool stuff that we bring to the community driven aspect is if you talk about business and I talk about business, there's no need to create different communities. So we all go under the lounge, for example, which is the community for that topic, and we become moderators. So we have these different cornerstones, and they all talk about this stuff. So there's people talking about books, people talking about literature, and so and so. So answer your question, yes, that's the vibe that we're bringing to the table.
And I know you mentioned it was, an idea that was born about 10 years ago in Brazil. Seeing that, I'm in the United States, is it, and I know you mentioned it is global, like has it really been brought out to the United States as far as like marketing wise, or do you see a lot of US citizens using it? And is it really like a 24/7 type of thing? Like,
So 100%. The company is based in the United States. We're incorporated in the United States. Uh, my co-founder is based in Philly. All our cornerstones are from the United States, from Florida to New York to California, and so. So that's where we founded the product market fit. So that's our prime goal right now, and obviously our market.
that you're in. I know it's been about 10 years, like you said, since it was born. So have you seen any major Industry
Uh,
shifts.
so whenever we talk about the creator economy, as I told you, whenever we founded Corners and the product was the matchmaking, we had the hardest thing was to explain to companies what a blogger was and why did they need it to partnership with them, doing collabs. Can you imagine like 10, 11 years ago, explaining to a company like, hey, you need to partner with that person, and they are going to post on their social platform talking about you. That was mind blowing back then, So obviously, a lot of that evolved, from both parties, from the company side to the creator side. Back then, it was more like a hobby than a professional, it was more like a side hustle to a lot of those creators, they were models, they were entrepreneurs, you know and obviously the biggest shift is like right now creator, it's is a profession, you see on people's LinkedIn, for example, so I believe that's one of them. Uh, and market wise, I believe the marketing industry as a whole, started to paying attention to the do's and don'ts, and with AI, oh my God, content became commodity, you know. I believe that's the next big shift that we're going to see in the creator economy. Uh, why? Because anyone has the tool to create quality content right now,
Mm.
what back in the day was available for a few people because you had to hire a designer, you had to hire a copywriter, you had to hire this and this. So in order to have a good team to create quality content, you needed all those people. And with AI, boom, right there, a lot of people are creating quality content. So that's why it's becoming a commodity. Why? Because it's abundant in the market right now. Supply and demand, economy 101. So right now, the supply and demand are so high. LinkedIn right now, you open LinkedIn, it's flooded with content. Like every freaking second, people are posting 5, 10 contents a day, like never seen before. So the next big shift is, again, content has become a commodity. So people are looking for more. And what they are looking for, meaningful communications. So people are, moving to this kind of environments, you see more people doing more master classes, Zoom calls, and rely to this type of environment to really deliver value because content, again, it's here, it's going to be around forever. I'm not saying content just because content became commodity, they're gonna erase from no, it's just that right now we're going to see a huge shift because whenever we see the trajectory of social media, a lot of you guys are not going to remember, but that was a thing called MySpace back in the days. That platform was the thing back in the years 2005, 2004, and obviously came Facebook with the first experience, like the first good experience for posting photos and stuff like that, And obviously came Instagram and Snapchat with a more video kind of feature, and now TikTok. And so whenever you see all those platforms, they also follow the technology advancements of their times, And back in those days, we would never dream that in 10 years or so, we would be here doing video conversations, Back then, back in the MySpace time, that was unthinkable, like doing a video call, the phones could even take like a proper picture, So I believe that's the next big leap that we're going to take as the industry.
And how has those different trends impacted your growth strategy? Because I know, like you said, even 10 years ago, like people weren't so glued to their phones with so much content out there, just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. Um, so do you feel like that's changed the way you want to grow your company?
Definitely impacting in the same thing because all those insights that we're talking about here, we were discussing them 3 years ago, like what's the future and so, because whenever that's something that I learned being a businessman, heading other business. If you try to follow a trend, you're already late. If the trend's already there and you try to let me catch a ride, you're late to the party. So just to let you know. So we were trying to think ahead and like, all right, so let's not follow anyone. Let's listen to our instincts. Let's listen to our experience. Let's talk to the user and see what will be the next big thing, what they are looking for, what's missing, you know. So that's what we did.
Who would you say are your current like competitors right now? Because I know we mentioned, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram as social networks. But would you say that they're really competitors? Because it sounds more like, they're, as you mentioned, content driven and
And I would say like platforms such as Substack, School, Discord, the white label solutions for community management. So I believe they're the closest one, and
and
I
what would
believe
you say makes your company stand out against those competitors?
I believe it's the whole experience, because for example, uh, have you ever tried to explain to Android user why the iPhone's better and otherwise it's impossible, they all have their different needs and experience. And I believe the biggest differentiation that Kornerz brings to the table and its unique value proposition is the culture, like, hey, we're a space for thinkers. We're a social network built by the people for the people, those kind of things. I believe that's our biggest thing,
Yeah.
not the feature, not the product. Because whenever you think about everything, probably, why do we go to a certain school? Why do we go to the coffee shop? Why do we use the app? At the end of the day, we go for the product, but we stay for the network. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's the thing with Corners. Whenever we have, obviously, right now we have a good product, but back in the days when we had a, not so good product, it was buggy. The user interface was so ugly. Oh my god. We would and people still used, and we would ask them like, dude, like, why do you keep coming back? Like, what are you doing here? And they would all say like, here I have the opportunity to talk with Khalil, with Gabe, with Rich. Those people, they're nowhere else. The only place that I'm able to network and to connect with those kind of people, it's on Corners.
And what's been frustrating?
I believe all the entrepreneurs are gonna feel and connect with what I'm about to say. I believe the most frustrating thing is putting a blank puzzle together. So I believe that's the journey every entrepreneur is in. You never know. You have obviously your assumptions, but you never know exactly what the next puzzle will be, you know?
Mm.
So, yeah.
And what metrics are you most focused on improving right now with the business?
Oh, definitely retention. Retention rate is our North Star since the beginning.
I guess what things have you tried to help with that retention rate?
So, for example, we took some big risks, for example, whenever we started developing the business, we said we're not gonna bother how we're gonna make money. Not because we don't want to make money, but because we're focused on the retention. Let's focus on building a great product that people love. And obviously, later down the road, we're going to figure out as well how to make money in a healthy and sustainable way.
Hmm.
That's good for the business and it's good for the user. What else? And obviously, a lot of iterations, like, oh my God, trial and error, testing different proof of concepts, going back to the drawing board, developing new features, improving the UX and UI. And obviously, I need to take off my hat for Kasha. She's our currently chief of design, and she did an amazing job, with the new UX and UI. And I believe, obviously, sounds cliche, but listen to the user, So that's what we always did. Obviously, we had our assumptions of what would work, but at the end of the day, it's up to the user, what he really wants. So we always did this, and Kasha, always went, above and beyond, to talk to the users, to get them in a video call and like, hey, share your screen with me. Let me see how you're using the app, giving task lists to the user, like, hey, do this, do that, and myself, every time I kind of, talk about the app with a friend or whatever, and they would pick up their phone. That was kind of creepy because I would always like go behind them and like, you know, watch how they would do use the app, from the onboarding and so and so. And I would see, live, oh, they didn't found that button, they didn't know how that thing worked, they went that way instead of that. So, all those interactions would bring us the insight on how to improve, how do something with less click, how do something more smoothly, how this, how that, so that's the blank puzzle, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we did it.
So do you guys have any specific major goals that you would like to achieve over the next 6 to 12 months? I know you.
Right now, it's our go-to market debut. We're like, all right, we're ready to rock and roll. We did the we did the reverse playbook. We haven't invested anything in market so far. We just been on the down low, working on the product. Doing the proof of concepts, getting everything ready. So our next goal is really go to market. Say like, hey, we're here. You know.
And if you could solve one major challenge right now, what would that be?
If I could solve regarding the company or like
The company side.
broad, if I could solve, I believe would be, improve the mental well-being of the world. You know, I believe that's our biggest problem as humanity right now. I believe that's the cancer of the 21st century.
And can you share any success stories that you are proud of currently with the company?
I saw grown people cry. Can you imagine that? People like on, on their 50s, 60s, 30s, that use the platform. They're like, oh my God, this is great. I've been looking for this for like years. I've been feeling lonely. I didn't have anyone to talk about. I love philosophy. I love literature, you know, and I was like, wow, that's great. So for me, that's whatever happens, I'm already successful with the business, with the social network. I told me and my co-founder, we used to play about this. Whenever we start developing the social network, we said, if we were able to have a positive impact in one people's life, only one is enough. If we have a positive impact in that person, if we're able to save one life, one simple life, mission accomplished, you know? So, yeah. And I can say mission accomplished.
That's awesome. That is very impactful and actually good to hear too, because I feel like you said, a lot of businesses now are just more so about profit driven, what can I provide people? What order, what product, what content, mainly content can I provide people versus how can I make people feel good about themselves? So I think that's very impactful. Um, and on the other hand of that question, what do you feel like may prevent the company from having more of these success stories? So what roadblocks, because I know you mentioned even like I said, social platforms like Facebook, TikTok, and people just want to watch content, and scroll all day. Would you say that that is a roadblock block for your users
Question.
or
I believe a particular roadblock right now is the go-to market, really, because we have been shadow banned, from a few platforms, because of what we do, obviously, you know, they see us as competitors. So uh, that's something that we are always trying to work around, to go above and beyond, to communicate with our users, to get the message clear to them, and bring awareness, and so the world can know that we exist.
yeah, no, that's definitely important. And I know we talked about AI tools that you have used them for your company, but do you have any specific AI tools that you want to share with the viewers that have really helped your company out a lot?
I believe what AI is doing for the businesses, and I would say we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for AI, because obviously scaling a business, scaling any business, obviously, requires a lot of effort and investment. You either going to put money into the business or you're going to put your sweat equity, So we've been using we use, for example, the Google Workspace environment, and we have the top Gemini's subscription. So we've been using that a lot, and yeah, I believe that's the biggest one that we're using so far. And obviously, all their development studios, to kind of review code and whatever, doing a lot of scripts and to improve the productivity.
And are there any areas in the business in which haven't really used AI for, but feel like you possibly could? So, whether that's marketing or talking to users or whatever that may look like. Have you thought about that?
Oh, we've been using everything, everything that we can possibly put our hands on. But I'm very skeptical. We have a lot of possibilities to implement AI into the business. For example, moderations, and so and so. And I'm gonna say why we're not doing that. Obviously, I know it kind of goes in a different direction of the question, but I would love to state that for any business, and obviously I want to put this question out to a lot of people. Whenever you're going to use an API for anything in your business, you're putting your business in your value proposition in the hands of that company. So I believe all those companies right now, they're still finding the product market fit. They're still evolving, the documentation, the libraries, everything is it's changing, regarding the API uses, the rates and so, so we're not going in that direction, but on the direction of productivity, marketing, outreaches, coding, for example, reviewing the coding, finding a bug, cleaning up the source code, and so. We're using all, that has boosted our productivity. I don't know, maybe 10x, So yeah, it's amazing. Amazing.
And where do you believe leaders should focus their efforts to use AI most effectively?
Hmm. Oh my God. I believe the biggest example that we can have happened a few days ago when Anthropic turned down the $200 million contract, from the U.S. government. Did you know that?
No.
Did you hear that? Yeah, it was a thing. So the long story short about this was the U.S. government, uh, you know, should I say invited or offered Anthropic a $200 million defense contract, you know? But one of the asks would be that Anthropic would give United States defense some backdoors, on their applications to have, access to information that nobody was having access to, you know?
Mm.
And what Entropic did, they turned it down. They said no. And everybody was, whoa, $200 million contract turned down? And they did. And the president got really mad and he closed all the contracts from Entropic and still they stand their ground, said no, you know. And what happened? OpenAI stepped in and accepted the deal.
Mm.
And Anthropic skyrocketed, the numbers of download went to the roof, and OpenAI went downhill. Everybody started boycotting, OpenAI, uninstalling, and so, So I believe that's the goal, I believe that's a big difference of being greedy and being ambitious. Being greedy, it's a win-lose relationship. If I win, you lose. Period. There's no other way. And the ambition is a win-win. And we will only win if you win. I'm gonna drag you whatever it costs, And I believe the future leaders should focus on that, because it's the same thing. The same knife that you use to pass some butter on your bread is the same knife that you can stab someone. So that's the thing with AI. Everyone's talking about AI can do this, AI can do that. Everything can, you know, everything with the wrong use can be a weapon, right? For example, my dad used to tell me this. Khalil, the difference between venom and a medicine is the amount you're going to use. You
Mhm.
know, leaders should focus on the value proposition. How can I use these two to improve something? You know, yeah, and not just how can I use this to make money? Let's make money. Woo, let's go. No.
No, I think that's very sound guidance, honestly. And before we close out, do you have any last things you want to say to our audience, but also any last advice as to how leaders should approach AI, whether to adopt it, experiment, or hold back, and why?
When we all do better, we all do better. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we we thrive as a society. We can take shortcuts, of course, but that's not how we're gonna take the next leap as a society. And AI is gonna change the world forever. Because like I told you, the guy that didn't have $1,000 to invest in his business, now he can thrive. Now he has a chance, to being successful because with a $20 subscription of Gemini of ChatGPT, he can have a copywriter, he can have lawyers, he can have designers, he can have the whole thing, you know. Uh, so I believe that's it. That's the thing. The one man armies are going to be able to thrive. But again, answer your question. The best piece of advice is focus on doing good to the other. Like don't. What I'm saying is money is good. But the money should be the outcome of your skill, of your company, of your value proposition. Focus on doing something amazing first, and as a result, you're gonna get paid for it. You know what I mean? I believe that's my biggest piece of advice, my 5 cents of advice, if I may.
Listen, 5 cents could be worth a dollar. Could be worth a dollar. And before we wrap up, do you want to share any socials if anyone wants to follow you or find the website to connect?
Yes, feel free to reach me out, Khalil Jazini, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Corners, right? Uh, our website is corners.com. The app is available for iOS only, so you guys can check it out, can download, and you know, we can meet each other in a nook sometime, so that's how you can find me.
Well, thank you, Khalil, for joining us today on the AI Edge for Enterprise Leaders. That's all.
My pleasure. Awesome.
Today's conversation highlights that while AI continues to evolve rapidly, real impact comes from thoughtful leadership, clear strategy, and intentional execution. To our listeners, I hope today's conversation sparked ideas that you can use within your own organization. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel for future episodes and insights. You can also follow me on social media for more AI insights and real life moments into entrepreneurship and motherhood. I'm Mom Boss J, that's MOMBOSSJAY, on TikTok and Instagram, and you can find me on LinkedIn by my name, that's Jakaya McCambry, JAKAYAMCCAMBRY. I'd love to connect with you there. Until then, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Jakaya, and I'll see you on the next episode.